Welcome back. We are pleased to be joined this morning by Kathy Anderson and Dave Hodges, and we're going to be talking this morning about Grundy Recovers. Welcome.
Thank you.
Pleasure
Morning.
to have you all
Good
with
morning.
us this morning. And we're going to be talking about some events coming up in the month of September, which is
National Recovery Month.
National Recovery Month.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that. So thank you for telling me that. We've already learned something. Kathy, what's happening during the month of September, but specifically on Monday?
Monday is Labor Day, and Palmer's big events are Monday, and Grundy Recovers is going to be having a float in the parade. We are going to have a candlelight vigil that evening for those that were lost in addiction and those that are still in addiction, and we are going to be having cardboard testimonies that night. It's important, I think, for families that have lost someone to come out and support us, and it's also important for families that have someone in addiction to come out and support us because we're there for their family members.
Cardboard testimonies?
It is where we will write what used to be on a piece of cardboard and then what God has done for us through our recovery on the other side.
Nice.
So it will be very moving, and anybody that wants to look it up on YouTube because there's a lot of really good ones.
Where is that going to take place?
That's going to take place at the Palmer Ball Field around 7:30 Monday night.
So it's all sort of
All.
a part of the
Mhm.
parade, but an offshoot.
Yes, and we're going to have a booth up there Labor Day as well. We're going to be there all day, so if anybody wants to come by and talk about recovery, talk about addiction, please come by and talk to us. We are so excited about our recovery. I think everybody that goes to the Grundy recovery meetings in Palmer on Thursday nights at 6 o'clock, everybody that goes there, we're so excited to be in recovery. We're so excited about what God's doing. We're so excited about Grundy Recovers. And we just want to help everybody. I'm like always, I want everybody to be in recovery with me because it's one of the best things that's ever happened to me.
Now, are those meetings open just to those in recovery, or can people come who maybe have a family member who
Everybody's
is...
welcome.
Okay.
Everybody's welcome. And we will feed you before the meeting. We have the ladies get together and we decide what we're going to have for the week, and we bring in food. It's fellowship before the meeting. We fellowship during the meeting. We fellowship after the meeting. We don't go home. It's late when we get home, but it's good. It's a good bond.
And where are those meetings held?
Palmer Community Center.
All right.
Every Thursday night,
At what time?
6:30.
Okay, open to anybody
Open
who
to
needs...
anybody that wants to come.
All right.
Come
Yeah.
about 6, you can eat.
Okay. All right. What else is going on through the month of September for Recovery Month?
We've got for Region 3 South, which I kind of oversee, which is 10 counties, Grundy and all the way over to Polk and Bradley and McMinn. We've got all the counties, maybe not all the counties, but a lot of the major counties are going to be doing events. I know out in Nashville they've got Recovery Fest coming up, and you can check it out on our website, tnlifeline.com. I think they had about 2,000 people out there last year. It's going to be down in a park downtown in Nashville. It's Recovery Fest for Nashville. Later on in the month of September, I believe on the 13th, Chattanooga's hosting an event at the Hamilton Place Mall where they're going to be doing a drug take back. We're also going to have, we've got 19 vendors going to be set up inside the mall, handing out T-shirts and information. I think on the 24th of this month, Lifeline is going to be partnering with the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga at UTC Auditorium, and we're going to be showing a phenomenal, groundbreaking film. It's a documentary on addiction and recovery. It's called The Anonymous People, and it's a full-length 88-minute documentary on addiction and recovery. It won a lot of awards this year. I've become kind of good friends with the producer of the movie, Greg Williams, and there's just so much information in that movie about addiction and recovery. Then on the next night, on the 25th, which is a Thursday, we're going to be down in Winchester duplicating the event that we're doing Monday here. And so last year we had a couple hundred people show up at the Recovery Park in Winchester. And we partner with the recovery courts. You know, drug court's not called drug court anymore. It's called recovery court. Because that's one of the things that the state wanted to do to reduce the stigma that's associated with people that have an addiction. And so if you've ever seen South Park and they go, drugs are bad, okay, then that's, drugs are bad. So we want to take the bad element out of it, because that's one of the main goals for Project Lifeline is to reduce the stigma that's often associated with this pernicious disease of addiction. And so we're really trying to focus heavy on that, and the Anonymous People is a great tool that we use to do that.
And recovery court sounds a lot better than drug court, doesn't it?
It does.
Project Lifeline.
Yes. Project Lifeline, a lot of folks know me from the coalition here, and I got a call a little over a year ago from my director in Nashville that oversees the coalitions, and he asked me, he said, Dave, would you be interested in working on Project Lifeline? And I said, well, yeah. Well, great, what is it? And he said, I'll send you the information. And basically, our Tennessee state legislatures, our General Assembly in Nashville, got together and with the governor and the Commissioner of Mental Health, Doug Varney, and they got together, and what they wanted to do was come up with some sort of a project that would divert individuals from incarceration into recovery, because everybody knows that this war on drugs has not worked. It's failed miserably. Incarceration doesn't do anything for people with an addiction. And so the governor and the commissioner realized that these are our loved ones. These are our family that are being locked up because they have an addiction. And yes, there's crimes associated with people of addiction, and that's an attachment. But we wanted to be able to come up with something that is concrete, and we're still researching it, and we're new in our infancy stage of Project Lifeline. But we were very pleased last year, just in the pilot year of Lifeline, we were able to create 90 new recovery meetings across the state of Tennessee. We also had 900 plus conversations, kind of like you and I are doing right now. Not only just personal conversations, but conversations in group settings. We were having conversations in group presentations about recovery. See, one of the things that a lot of people don't know is we have studied addiction to death. We know everything there is to know about addiction. What we don't know a lot about is recovery. And so we're starting to study that more and more, and we're starting to find out that recovery is different for different people. What works for one person may not work. So it's not a one-size-fits-all.
Right.
And that's why I love what we're doing out in Palmer. And because we take a kind of like an ambidextrous or a one-size-fits-all, because there are people that are addicted to substances. There are people that are addicted to other people. That's called codependency. We've talked about that before on this show. We have people that are addicted to food, eating disorders. We have people that are addicted to work and gambling. And so what we do out in Palmer is a very generalized approach. We use a faith-based model, a Christ-centered 12-step program, very similar to AA or NA, but we put a heavy emphasis on what the scriptures say out of the Bible along with those 12 steps, and we go into in-depth studies. And when I started this, I got together with the sheriff last year, and I said, Sheriff, I think we want to try and do this in the jail. And he said, okay. And so with his help and Project Lifeline, we started to bring in some materials and started forming classes out at the jail, and it was very successful. And I started to realize, well, I had guys in my class out at the jail that were getting out before the class was over, and I said, well, we've got to do something. So we searched high and low for a church to be able to hold our meetings, and nobody was really, I think a lot of the churches were standoffish because they thought it was just too much work. And I, for one, just got tired of scooping people up and putting them in ambulances and seeing all the overdoses that we have here in Grundy County. And the guys that were getting out of jail, we had to have some place for them to continue on
Right.
with what they had been learning in jail. So I got together with Mayor Crabtree out there in Palmer, and I said, can we just rent the community center out there? We can't just wait for a church to say, okay, come on. We had to do something now. And so we're seeing about 25 to 30 people every week out there. We've had to bring in childcare. We've got people coming out there with tons of kids, and we hope to, in the future, start a program very similar to what we're doing, just geared for high school. We've got about 6 or 8 people from Grundy County going to a conference to learn some very specific recovery training. They're going to the Celebrate Recovery one-day seminar in Nashville, and part of that seminar is going to be touching on a thing called the landing, and that is exactly the same thing that we're using with the adults, but it's written in adolescent language. And so I've got some of the girls in the group are super excited about doing that with the youth, because we can already see the need for it with just the 10 or 8 to 10 kids that are coming every week that need supervision, while the adults are in there learning about the 12-step recovery process. So man, there's a lot of really, really good things going on, especially in Grundy County and all throughout the state of Tennessee. The state of Tennessee, I believe, is one of the leaders in the nation as we start to research the things that make recovery work. But one of the things that we know, Karen, that we have to do is we have got to reduce the stigma that's associated to people with an addiction, and we've got to be able to try and streamline our treatment process too. And that's if somebody comes to you and says, Kathy, I got a problem and I need some help. How short is that window of opportunity to get them into treatment? Maybe an hour before they change their mind and talk themselves out of it. You see what I'm saying?
And use.
And so if I call a treatment
and once
center,
they've done that, then you've lost them for how long?
it could be permanently.
Right,
And that's
before they decide
right.
again, well, I do want to go get help, because if they use before you can get them help, you're right, you might have lost them forever.
Well, if they come to you and say, well, I need help, and I say, okay, let me get on the phone, and I start calling people like CADIS and New Leaf and the different recovery programs and centers that we've got around, and they say, come back in a month, or we'll put you on the waiting list,
Right.
and we can get you in a month,
Right.
because the whole state, not just the state of Tennessee, the whole country is overwhelmed with the treatment need. And they say, come back in a month. How many circular saws do you think that person's going to go and steal at Home Depot to feed their addiction?
Right.
And then what happens is they get $50,000 worth of services in the form of handcuffs immediately. Right. And that's messed up. We got to change that. And we're looking and working very hard with Recovery Court to try and see how we can shift some of that funding from tying up the court system and the incarceration system and the jail system, and funnel some of that money into increasing and improving our treatment centers, because people need to be in treatment. They don't need to be in jail.
Right, if you can correct the addiction problem, they no longer have the need to go out and steal.
Yeah.
To support their habit. I get that. I get it. If there's someone out there right now who needs help, what should they do? What can they do?
Call us. Call me. Get on our website, tnlifeline.com. Call me. My number is 931-709-1161. Call me, and we'll get you some help. We'll get you started on the right direction. Get to our meetings. Come out and check us out. Like I said, listen, I don't care what you've done. We want people to come, and we're just going to love on them. We're going to feed them, and we're going to introduce them to this thing called recovery, which, like I said, not a lot of people know a lot about. Because, see, the media has done a great job of shedding a negative light. Listen, when you talk about Charlie Sheen and Lindsay Lohan, well, they're movie stars. And bad press is good press for them, but
Right.
they're also human beings. But
Right.
for a regular Joe Schmo like me, you start plastering how I've goofed up all over the, kept running media story after media story of, you keep making addiction and recovery and put it in a bad light, nobody's going to want to get help.
Right.
So reducing the stigma that's attached to people with an addiction is paramount. We want people, it's my job to make recovery cool. And I'm here to tell you that it is. And there's a lot of people in Palmer, and there's a lot of people in Grundy County that are starting to step out of the shadows. Look, you may have goofed up 10, 20 years ago, and you may have gone through your recovery process, and you may be doing great now. But we know one thing. We know there's 23 million Americans right now living in long-term recovery, which means they're doing well. But there's also 20 million Americans that are living in active addiction. If we can tap those 23 million Americans that are living in long-term recovery and doing well to say this, go grab one person by the hand, drag them along, get them, help them, be that role model, share your experience, your strength, your hope. Those 23 million Americans can help those other 20 million Americans. We'll change it overnight. And so the more we start to get this recovery thing out in the open and get people to tell their story and not be ashamed of who they are. See, deep down inside, there's been a lot of vague rhetoric around this anonymity thing. And I'm here to tell you what it boils down to is people are ashamed. And we don't want them to be ashamed. Listen, you've made a mistake, you've got an addiction, let's deal with it.
Right.
Be hope. Deal with it, be hope, and be support for somebody else. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing to be ashamed of.
Talking about celebrities, look at Robert Downey Jr. How
Yeah.
low, talking about, rock bottom. He was as close to the bottom as anybody you've ever seen, and I thought that was going to be the one, the one that we buried. And look how successful he is now. He did it. He turned it around, and he did make recovery cool.
Yeah.
So, it can absolutely be done.
Recovery is fun. I feel better than I've felt in years. If people would just stop and think that when you hide in a corner and you don't share your recovery, those people around you that think they're having fun right now, and they're not, they're not going to see what recovery's like. And that's why I'm so out there with my recovery. Everybody knows that I'm in recovery. I don't hide anything.
Right.
And I want people to see that it's fun. That's why I want everybody to be in recovery with me, because I am having so much fun. I have this family that I didn't have before, which I'm ever so thankful for. And if they'll just come out and be with us, they'll see that you have this bunch of recovering people that have a blast. We had a picnic Saturday. We were all there. We had a ball. And if people would just, and we had more fun sober than we ever had high.
Right.
So if people would just come out and start to realize that
What their life
recovery,
could be, right?
what their life could be, because my life is chaotic. I go all the time, but it's a good chaos. I'm living where I didn't live for a long time, and I'm just so thankful for it. So I want everybody to come out to Palmer and join us. It's fun. It really is. Come to a meeting. You won't regret it. And families need to come. My family supports me. My husband comes. My daughter comes. I mean, my children, Thursday night is a family event for us. We go as a family. And so, yes, families need to come. They need to support. And if they don't, their loved one's not coming right now, come anyway. Because eventually your loved one's going to want to come. So come be with us.
Okay. TennesseeLifeline.com, or Dave, they can give you a call, or just show up at a meeting.
Just show up at a meeting.
All right. Guys, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having us.
And hopefully, recovery is cool, right?
It is.
Yes, it is.
And that's the message. All right,
Yes.
thanks so much.